feel it in the wind. It will crush.
Everything I've said is true. It's real.
Dinosaur fossils? God put those here to test our faith.
A damn lie. I saw them with my own eye.
Did IQs just drop sharply while I was away?
We did illusions, man. None of it is true.
I'm not insane.
This is mass madness, you maniacs. In God's name, you people are the real thing. We are the illusion.
Welcome back to the Deep Share podcast, and we are here with a brand new year, supposedly, if we trust the calendar. I don't know if I do. I'm sure Charlie doesn't. But we're here with Mr. Charlie Robinson again. Hey, how's it going, Charlie?
It's going well. I mean, I have the same level of anxiety that I think most people have for 2024, which is like a general uneasiness. So happy 2024.
Yeah.
I think, look, we're all here, right? That's a good start. They can only kill us once, right? They can make us
slowly,
miserable
right?
for a while.
Exactly. But you know,
So,
I mean, it's not all doom and gloom. This is
No.
an even keel to look forward to, and you know, it's. I hate to say it because I know it's partly the endorphin or whatever it is that kind of keeps us looking at all the evil stuff going on, but it's exciting too. Like, what's this year going to bring? Because there's been so much is going to happen next year. Oh, now it's really coming. It's like, okay, well, it's all been incremental so far, as it's always been. And is this going to be finally the year? Or do we all grow up every generation at some point thinking the end is nigh? Fuck, man, it's all over the place. But I listened to your recent episode, and it gave me some hope, but it also gave me some, like, I don't know, I wouldn't call it fear, just like the need for more responsibility in my life, I guess you could say.
yeah.
But yeah, where should we start here? First of all, before we get going any further, your show has now expanded on TNT Radio to 5 days a week, from the 1 to the 5. So you're Monday through Friday now at 2 p.m. EST, right?
Yeah, it felt like a summer job when I was doing it on Saturday mornings, my time, it was like 8 a.m. to 10 a.m. Saturday mornings where I am in Denver. It's like Saturday mornings, it's like an easy morning. I'm not doing anything. This will be fun. Now it's Monday through Friday, every day at 2 p.m. Eastern for an hour. And instead of it being like, hey, let's just hang out and, the cameras were now the cameras are on. and now it's like, and I'm official. I've got an earpiece, an invisible earpiece where it like
great.
runs up the back.
We're gonna go to our guy down on the
I got a producer in my ear in Australia in the studio who's telling me things, and so has jumped in and he's coming, we've got
That's
something.
so cool, man.
So it all feels very important and very real. But I'm not a newscaster. I just don't know how long it'll take before they figure it out. What's funny though is I did get an email from the owner who put me through the ringer over the first couple of weeks with technical issues. But now I think, there's 2 owners over there, and I think they both like me. I got a message, which I think was a little early for it to be a New Year's Eve induced drunken message from Australia, but it was pretty close. It was like maybe a couple hours early, from the owner saying, I really love your show. You're a perfect host. And I was like, what? Perfect host? Hang on a second. Watch out. I'm not going to be able to fit my head out of the doorway if you keep up with this stuff. And it's like, oh, you haven't heard all of my stuff yet. There's still time for you to hate me.
Well, I mean, to his respect, you are a fantastic host, Charlie, and
Thank you.
love Macroaggressions, and the Charlie Robinson show is fantastic. You could even see that crazy guy Andy Rouse popped up there a couple times. That was fun.
You've been good to me, and I appreciate you. And I know that if we're gonna get into if we're going to get into the history, the stuff that I'm interested in, but I don't know enough about it, then I have to reach out to you, because you're going to tell me some Norse folklore tale from 1,000 years ago that I'm going to go, what? I've never even thought about something like this. You're going to be like, oh yeah, this is the thing. You got to know about this. So we have our
Thank you.
specialties, right?
Absolutely. Yeah. And like I was telling you before we started here that, when I saw you drop that episode, I think you called it, Should We Be Worried About 2024? You're the only person in my life, my mind, that could make that title on like a conspiracy alternative kind of platform and it not shoot out like fear porn flags to me, because a lot of times that's what we get. And I feel like, okay, I saw that title. I'm like, Charlie's gonna bring me something along this topic that's balanced and realistic and down to earth, which I can't even provide half the time because I'm, going off into left field half the time. But I knew that you would bring like a pretty balanced approach to like, should we honestly be worried about it? And I really liked that episode, and I hope people have and will go check it out. And I really kind of wanted to kind of talk about that a little bit. Me, I'm always talking about ancient history, so I don't often talk about contemporary things on this show. And I wanted someone like you to come on and we could talk about this for a long time. But yeah, mostly, what's your general take? What's your outlook in general? Like, do you feel good about the year coming, or are you terrified? I mean, what do you think?
Well, I mean, I feel like you've got to kind of rip the Band-Aid off a little bit, because we've got some problems and they're not going to get fixed until we're honest about them. We've got a financial catastrophe, but the thing is, it's like, that's not specific to 2024. We've had a financial catastrophe looming for the last couple of years. The fact that we haven't had it yet is just because they've been manipulating it. So it could hit in 2024. It could hit the year after that. But I'm of the opinion that some of this stuff we just need to work through. There's no, you can put this on your credit card, your emotional credit card, but at some point you have to pay the bill. And we've done that from an actual financial standpoint of putting everything on our credit card as a nation, and that's never a good sign. But we've also outsourced and postponed a lot of the stuff that we need to be honest about. And that is that there's an ideology that's infecting the West in general and United States in particular. And it is this wokeism, environmental social governance, DEI, diversity, equity, inclusion models. It's this reimagining of society where everybody's a special rainbow unicorn person,
Right.
and we can't, and everybody brings something amazing to the table, and it's a lot of magical thinking and nonsense. And it'd be one thing if it was just that, but it's getting like normalized. It's getting into curriculums in schools, in schools for younger kids. Obviously, we've seen what's been going on in universities over the last couple of years. And it feels like it's almost like a detachment from reality. It's like, oh, everybody's equal. Everybody has to be equal. If everybody's not equal, it's like, what planet are you living on? I'm
Right.
all for equal opportunities, but not equal outcomes.
Right.
I'm not gonna get hired. I'm not gonna get signed to a 4-year deal by the Los Angeles Lakers. I'm not. And I'm fine with that. And I shouldn't. And if
I
they
mean, you
sign
never
me, they should
know.
also-
At this point,
You know?
with the way it's going, you could identify as a professional basketball player.
That's the thing, is that I just have to identify as something other than. And so there's a lot of this wokeism that, at first it was funny and kind of like easy, like, you'd kind of goof on people and it was funny. And then now it's not funny anymore, because now it's like becoming embedded in the culture. And there's a lot of people that are of the belief that they can just that like, I don't, Work? What is work? I don't want to go to, I want, oh, the videos of people like, I went to work and
Oh
what
my
do you want
God,
me
I
to
know.
do? I get off work and I come home and it's dark already. And what am I supposed to, and I'm
And the
just supposed to,
commute, I have to commute to this job. My God.
welcome
Yeah,
to the
man, it's
reality.
everywhere. Yeah.
Yes, this is called getting out of school and facing the big bad world. So it feels like there's a lot of just, I don't, just magical thinking.
Mm.
And that's bad when it's being done by people in positions of high power, and when they demand it of others. It's one thing when you're like, these people are crazy, but it's another thing when you're like, these people are crazy and they're also my college professors,
Yeah, that's
and
the most important part.
I have to, what answer do I give on this test? Do I give
Right.
do I give the real answer, or do I give an answer that this guy wants? Where the question is, can men get pregnant? And I have to say yes, because I need to pass this class because I'm $75,000 in debt and I'm about to get out, and I've got 2 semesters left and I'm about to graduate and all that. And so like, what are we doing? So there's part of it that I like from a social standpoint, it feels like a weird experiment that's going
Yeah.
on with all this wokeism. And and that's one thing. And then there's the economic side of things, and that I have that I worry about only because, at some point you can't, the music stops and you've got to grab a chair,
Right.
and I fear that that's going to happen in 2024. But to be fair, I thought that was going to happen in 2019 as well, and it didn't.
Right. Yeah,
So
we've been all
like,
kind of talking about it slowly, like it's looming regardless. Yeah.
yeah, the timing aspects of like, oh, I think it'll happen in August of 2025, like that, you never, you're guessing and speculating. And but the things that I don't need to speculate about is that we're overextended as a country, financially. We're overextended as a country socially. We're busybodies. We're getting involved in all these other wars around the country or around the world, and there's an overall lack of prioritization with like, if you made a list of 100 items that needed to get fixed in America, the problem that I feel is that my list would not be the list that they would work off of. That if I took a look at Joe Biden's list, it would be like, number one, domestic white supremacy is the number one threat to America. And you're like,
Yeah.
really?
Then ice
That's
cream. We need ice cream.
We need ice
More and
cream.
more
Yeah.
ice cream. Things like
More
that. Yeah.
ice cream. I was gonna make a joke like, step number one, make sure I don't shit my pants with the Pope again. You know what I mean? But like the priorities are out of whack.
Yeah.
It feels like very cartoonish, like the president and the vice president are not serious people. They come out, they have a press secretary, she comes out with a binder, people ask her questions, she can't answer their questions, she then just starts flipping through the binder and then reads off an answer that doesn't make any sense. And when you call her out on it, then they say, well, you're picking on her because she's a woman of color and a lesbian and an immigrant. And you go, yeah,
Boom,
that's why
boom,
you
boom.
hired. That's the when you introduced her to everybody as the Biden, as Biden's press secretary, the way you introduced her to the world was that, ladies and gentlemen, the first Haitian woman of color lesbian press secretary. Ladies and gentlemen, what's her fucking name? Who cares? You know what I mean?
Couldn't
Like,
tell
it
you
didn't
either.
matter. She
Right.
was just box ticking and everything. So everything feels very cartoonish. And again, that would be one thing if I was just writing books about a time or an era that I wasn't a part of. But I have to live on this planet too with these lunatics.
Right.
And so I'm frustrated by it. And so when I put together the 2024 episode, I was trying to like, okay, you know, I don't want to I don't want to scare everybody. I don't think that's helpful. I don't work well when I'm scared. I work well when I'm when I've got a checklist of things that I need to do and I can prioritize it and I can get through it. So I wanted to try and frame it in a way that wasn't like, oh, we got to be extra scared of 2024. But the problem is we do have an election, selection, whatever, however we want to look at it. And that, regardless of how we feel about that, and it's not specific to 2024 because 2028 will have the same issues, but every year where there's an election, there's always some sort of ancillary nonsense that's going on too. That's like a distraction or it's something that comes up, and it just makes the year very weird. And it feels like the administration that's in office doesn't work. You know, it feels like it's second semester senior year. They're not working. They're campaigning, and you go, yeah, I understand you're campaigning, but could you also do the job that you're there to do for this last year? I mean, you've been doing such a shitty job of it the first 3 years. Maybe we shouldn't ask you to finish this up, but you know how it's going to be for this year. It's going to be like, well, Joe Biden's out on the campaign trail, you know, and you're like, why?
Yeah.
Why aren't you doing? Is the only place you should be on the campaign trail is down at the southern border, explaining why you allowed this situation to take place. But you can't talk about that.
Oh, you can't
talk about that. Then everybody wants to say, well, you might just be a little bit racist.
Right. Exactly. They corner you in every way possible, no matter what you say or do. And it goes down to the college campuses all the way up to the White House. So it's predictive programming. It's, you know, they're modeling their behavior for their pupils and their children out there in the world. It's terrible. And you're right. It feels like cardboard. Like, I mean, literally, didn't we have a situation where he was supposedly in the Oval Office, but then it wasn't the Oval Office or something? Yeah, it's like kindergarten.
It's like
a
soundstage, and they were looking out the window.
Yeah.
And it was like, he's like, here we are, we're you know, Oval Office, you know,
was
and like,
actually
and
perfect.
you're like, okay. And then he's like, and then you see the window, and it's like a sunny day out there, and people are like, hey man, it's snowing in Washington right now. They're not in Washington, D.C. I don't know where they are.
And I'm not saying that previous administrations and news networks and governments in general may not have faked things many, many times, but
Sure.
You know, of course, a lot of us point out how obvious it's become, and it's almost too obvious, and that plays a part in this too, because for people like us that have kind of every door open in our head to kind of look at it and try to see it from a million different angles, we don't know what to think of it. But then the populace out there that starts to notice, you know, it's one thing for the critical thinking, tinfoil hat wearing, you know, conspiracy analysts to notice this stuff. For it to be so blatantly obvious that, you know, anyone that's just paying half attention will start to notice how weird and odd it is. And even if they make excuses and still vote for these assholes, they'll still willingly ignore this fakery and that's clearly going on. And I wonder, is that just the balls on these people? Or I don't think they have balls. I wonder if this is strategic as well. I mean, we talked already about a number of different little pieces that like are kind of falling apart here. And it's like, is it all an intentional collapse like you often have talked about?
Yeah.
Is this more of what you've written about?
It feels like there's you know how like if you watch a well done Pixar movie, there's a storyline for the kids, and then there's also a storyline or there's some jokes that are for the adults, right?
Yes.
And I feel like when I look at this Biden administration and the apparatus recently, where it's very cartoonish, it's like there's one message that's like, this is totally nonsensical, and this is for the normie, you know, people that aren't really paying attention. Mm-hmm. And then it's like we all see what all the other stuff that's going on, and I feel like, hey, we see this. They go, oh yeah, oh, that other part of the show, that's special just for you.
Right,
you get to
right.
Watch while you see what's actually happening, and you get to watch while nobody else can see it except you. Enjoy the show. And
it's almost
go,
like
you people are even more diabolical than I thought, because you want me to see, you know, because it's like you could, that's the thing, is that you could make it less obvious, they could hire me. Not that I would do it, but they could hire somebody like me to go
They
to the White
have.
House and they could say, how do we make it look? And you go, well, I definitely wouldn't be doing this, that, or this, or this, or that, or that, all these things. But they are doing it. If I know that they shouldn't be doing that, clearly they know they shouldn't be doing it, and yet they're doing it. It's the
Right.
Solzhenitsyn lie. Like, we know they're lying, they know they're lying, we know that they know that we're lying, you know what I mean? And yet they're still lying. And so we're at this point where it's like, I know it's fake, and they know it's fake, and they know that I know it's fake.
And they're okay with
am
that.
I just having to watch this? Like, am I supposed to just watch this play out and suck my thumb in the corner and just take it? You know what I
Right.
mean?
It's like they're saying, watch what we're going to do to your siblings. Watch what we're going to do to all your friends. And it's like, oh my God. Yeah. And man, not to digress, but the holidays just being here, man, it's just the tension even in the extended family sometimes because of differing beliefs. A person like me kind of has to bite my lip and not say much, but underneath all the stupid little arguments that you get into or the spats with your family members, it's like you want to express to them, it's like I just want to make sure that the people I love are informed.
Yeah.
And from their perspective, they think you're just being Jesus. And it sucks. You know what I mean? Yeah. You can't even get that level of sympathy. Like, listen, I know you think I'm crazy. I'm just trying to help. Yeah. You think you're some savior. Stop it. And it's like, oh, man.
You go, oh, okay. Yeah. You keep injecting yourself, dummy. Keep injecting yourself. If you took your dog to the vet every year for the last 3 years and kept getting rabies vaccines for your dog, and your dog kept getting rabies, wouldn't you ask questions? Like,
right.
That's kind of where I am with this whole thing. If you're not putting the pieces together, then at the bare minimum, get out of my way.
Right.
Because I have when Berwick and I wrote Controlled Demolition of the American Empire, we wrapped it up, and I'm not giving away anything I'm not like spoiling the ending or anything, but we made this comparison to December 26, 2004, Banda Aceh, Indonesia. It's the day after Christmas in 2004. There is a huge earthquake that hits the Ring of Fire. And the people in Indonesia go out onto the beach the next morning, and there's no water. It's just gone. There's no ocean. And they're like, what is this? And you could walk a mile out into where the water used to be, and there is no water. And in that moment, that's kind of like where we are right now as a society. Like, that's kind of the way Jeff and I were framing this, which is, if that were to happen to you today, you would go, okay, I know what this means. That water didn't just disappear. It's gone. It's receded, and then it's coming in a tsunami. And that, of course, is exactly what happened in Indonesia. And it killed 200,000 people in the process that didn't understand the signs and didn't know what to look for. They didn't know what they were seeing. The animals did.
Yeah, they were long gone, I bet.
They instinctively went to high ground. They got themselves out of the way. And the people that had been there a while lived because they got themselves to high ground. And that's kind of where Jeff and I were with that book. And we were like, look, basically grab the people next to you and tell them there's not a lot of time to explain why we're going where we're going. You're going to need to trust me. We've got to get to higher ground right now. I'll explain it all to you later, but you're going to need to trust me. So in your scenario where you're at the holidays, trying to talk to your family, you got to prioritize your own time at this point. You can't save everybody. And it does feel like, when like you said, like, oh, you think you're some savior. If you know what I know about this stuff, you would want to save the people close to you too. If you knew what a house of cards the financial system is, and how unbelievably over leveraged and how it is just about to fall down. And that all it takes is something completely unrelated. Yemen fires a missile at a boat in the Gulf of Aden, cutting off all cargo traffic through the Red Sea. Oil goes to $300 a barrel. Let's just say.
Yeah.
That triggers all of these derivative contracts to hit all at once and start paying off, with one side being a winner and one side being a loser. Now, if Deutsche Bank is on any of these losses, on any of the side of any of the losses, and they will be because they've got a million derivatives bets with a bunch of other banks, they're insolvent. When they go down, they take everybody with them. So that's kind of my point to this. Like, I don't have time to explain to you where the water went. You're just going to need to get to higher ground, because it doesn't even take the CEO of Deutsche Bank stealing all the money out of the vault and disappearing to Tahiti. That doesn't need to happen. All that needs to happen is that some completely disconnected other event in another part of the world happens, creates a blockage with cargo, creates an oil price spike, and that sends a cascading effect through the entire market system. And then all it needs to do is take one of the big banks down. If it takes one of the big banks down, UBS or Deutsche Bank, which are both basically insolvent already, zombie banks, if it just officially takes them down, then think of it like this. If you're Deutsche Bank and you've bet on you bet the Kansas City Chiefs, the Kansas City Chiefs against the Philadelphia Eagles, last year's Super Bowl, and if you've got a winning bet, a Super Bowl bet against a guy who's got no money in his pocket, did you really win the bet?
Right.
Because he can't pay you. And that's kind of the derivatives trades with Deutsche Bank comparison, which is if you want to bet against Deutsche Bank and Deutsche Bank has to give you money, they're insolvent, then guess what? Your win is actually a loss. And now your loss goes on your books. And then that affects all your other bets that you have. So they're all intertwined. There's no way to unwind this whole thing. And so as we look at 2024, that's why I can say that I thought this whole thing was going to go down in 2019. We put that book out the tail end of 2020. Mm-hmm. Deutsche Bank was in just as bad a shape in 2020 as it is now, maybe even worse now.
Yeah, I was going to say it could only get worse. Yeah,
it didn't get any better. I know that. So you that's why trying to guess the timing is hard, because mathematically it should have happened already. But
right, it's just that fragile.
And you start obfuscating and saying, oh, well, we've changed the accounting rules on this, and that they don't have to market all of their bad debts that are sitting on their books, because if they did, then all the banks would be insolvent, because the bonds that they own are worthless because interest rates have gone. I mean, it's just to get really technical and kind of like financially, like kind of like nerdy, boring financial talk. But the problem is that it's just like that chain of dominoes. You just push one of them. Right. And the whole thing goes. And on top of that, surprisingly, it happens quickly. Mm-hmm. I mean, it happens in a week, not in a decade. It happens Thursday, you hear rumblings. Friday, the banks are closed. Long weekend. Oh, Monday, everything will be fine. Monday opens. The banks aren't open. Tuesday, they make an announcement. The banks are closed. They've done a bail-in to your account, and they have regretful news for you, but they have taken your deposits.
Right.
And the reason why they've taken your deposits is because they're not your deposits.
Absolutely.
You when you opened your bank account, you didn't read the fine print. And the fine print is that you are an unsecured creditor of this bank, and that the bank actually owns the bank accounts. And whatever you put in the bank account, you're putting in your bank's bank account, not yours. And if the bank goes bust, then the bank is in first position, then the bondholders of the bank are in second position, and then you as an unsecured creditor are in third position. And if you think that the FDIC is going to make you whole because they back all the accounts in America up to $250,000. Well, here's the bad news. First of all, they only have about 2% of all deposits on hand. So best case scenario is that you're getting 2 cents on the dollar.
Right.
But the 2 cents on the dollar that they have for you has all been invested in bonds that are upside down.
Right. So there's
So the
no way out of
FDIC
it.
is insolvent. The banks are insolvent. The money that you have in your bank account isn't actually your money. They recently, within the last couple of years, changed the laws and passed banking regulations that legalized bail-ins. Now we know about bailouts. That's when the government bails out the banks by handing them money. But
Right.
bail-ins is when they take your money, and they did that in Cyprus in 2014 or 2015, the island in the Mediterranean. And they had a bail-in there, and they kept they shaved about 30% off the top for anybody with accounts over 100,000 euros. And they just said, we need it because this bank is upside down. And so would you like to have like 70% of your money, or would you like to have 0% of your money?
Right.
And so again, it's sort of like the Smith Modernization Act of 2012, which legalized propaganda. I just asked the very logical question: why would they take the extraordinary step of legalizing propaganda to be used in America on Americans if they weren't intending on using some propaganda?
Right.
That's a
Absolutely.
logical question. Same applies for the bail-in. Why would they take the extraordinary step of legalizing bail-ins if they weren't going to use it? So this is, again, this is like, I'm not Nostradamus. I'm not going to write quatrains about it. I'm not going to go into a meditative state or anything. I'm just saying, I'm watching what they're doing. And when they legalize criminality, they're going to be using it. That they're going to be doing that. So when I see them say, oh, well, we're going to legalize bail-ins, it's easy for me to predict that there will be bail-ins. It's harder to say exactly when, because
Right.
it might be 2024, might be 2028. I don't know. Who knows? But they wouldn't have legalized it if they didn't plan on using it. That I'm confident in.
Yeah. Yeah. That's always the case. I mean, it's always snuck in weird times and stuff like that too,
Yeah.
Like, I think, wasn't the Smith Modernization Act, like that was like around a holiday or something like that, or in the middle of the night or something?
New Year's Eve.
Yeah.
2012.
2012, yeah.
Yeah,
Perfect.
and they stuffed
the
it
end
in
of the
National
world, right?
Defense Authorization Act. Yeah, everyone's out at, we're gonna go to the hey Barack, are you coming to the party? Oh, just a second. I've just got to sell out America real quick. I've just got to write this one little thing in here. Make sure to use propaganda against Americans and make it legal. Boom, passed it.
Unreal.
Done.
And it's like, I looked for so long, like, how did Americans, like, why were they okay with this? But no one really knew. No one that would have cared knew that it was happening at the time, or at least that's what it seemed like,
Right.
But
it's frustrating because it's there. See, we are at a severe disadvantage because we come at this with a mindset of like, we're good people, we're nice people, we think about other people. I'm not going. I hold the door for everybody, but especially like a little old lady. I'll wait a little extra long as she's coming. For me, the idea of enslaving humanity doesn't comprehend, right? I can't really think about that. And so we mistakenly assume that the people in positions of power, like we see, oh, Barack Obama, he seems like a cool guy. Oh, he likes to smoke Newports. Yeah, I could smoke a Newport. You know what I mean? Like we make these assumptions. Oh, they're just like us. They're not. They're not. They're hardcore sociopaths that find themselves in places like Washington, D.C. because it gives sociopaths whatever they want: power, money, control, access to all kinds of things, right? The things that really turn them on. So we make this assumption that we wouldn't do that, therefore
Right.
they wouldn't do that. And that is just such a bad assumption to make. We're all guilty of it.
It's classic. Yeah, we all do it.
Yeah, and it cripples us because you know, we just, we don't know to look for something like that buried in the legislation because we wouldn't think to put it in there. So it's not like we're going to go looking for it. And then you find it and you go, these people hate us. They hate our guts. They have no respect for us at all.
No, they've
and it
established
shows.
themselves together, whoever they are, because I mean, you know, there doesn't seem to be too much allegiance there either because they don't really like each other that much. It's almost like they're all in on something, but they, you know, they're not exactly their favorite people. You know, it's they're whoever they are. It's weird. It's like, and it sounds mythological and silly, but you could literally write a show about like, oh yeah, all these people. It's like, you ever see that show Lost? Remember that show Lost? So it's like the others, you know, Ben, Linus, and all those weirdos that had been living on the island forever. The people that show up on the plains are like, oh my God, these people are evil and they're coming to kill us. And it's like, yeah, they're all together. They kind of were in on something a long ago. Yeah. And now they're just with each other now. They don't like each other. I don't know. I'm kind of going off on a tangent, but that's kind of what it feels like, you know? It's
I've heard it described like this, like they don't need to have a big meeting. I mean, they do have big meetings,
yeah.
but they don't need to because they know what's good for them. And I, you know, I know how I need this legislation to go, and I know how I need my business to run, and I know how I need it. And as long as they know what's good for them, then they're all kind of on the same team. I've got a lot of money, and I want to first thing is I want to defend it and protect it, and then I want to grow it, and then I want to grow it in a way that tilts the playing field towards me a little bit more. You know what I mean? So like, you don't have to have the big me. It's like a wink, wink, nod, nod thing. Like, hey, you know, like I just saw that the stats were released for the stock pickings of Congress for this last year, like showing like how their portfolios did. Boy, there's some Nostradamuses in there. You know what I mean? That we're like, oh, it looks like I made 70% on my stock price. You know, it's like, how are you doing it? You know, is it because you know something the rest of us don't know? So I've had to kind of get honest with myself that like, do not export my way of thinking onto them. You know, always sort of like remember that these people are operating off of different, you know, the different rules, different, you know, they have different goals than the rest of us. You know, I think we want to like take care of our family and have a great life and be healthy as much as we can. And they're onto totally different things. They don't have the same set of priorities as us. And that makes it very difficult to live in a country with people that don't prioritize the same things that you prioritize, which is I think one of the reasons why you hear a lot of talk about civil war in 2024, because it's becoming increasingly obvious that both sides don't want to live with each other. You know, the red team and the blue team are getting to a point where they're just like, I have nothing in common with you and I want a divorce. And
it's a shame too, because honestly, it's like most of these garbs that are put on that are these colors of red and blue, and we're not even just specifically talking political, but of course a lot of the influence comes from that arena. You know, without those garbs, we are one fucking people, and we should be fighting the invisible they that we can't really point to. But you know, it's so hard at this point, you know, like I would love to look forward to 2024 and see more people waking up, quote unquote, you know, but at the same time, it's back and forth, man. You know, I don't know. It seems like people are getting further and further away from the mark. Like we're getting further away from one another rather than closer. And I find it with myself sometimes getting more frustrated than sympathetic, you know, and got to remind myself a lot.
Yeah. And then that makes me frustrated that I catch myself like, oh, I'm kind of falling into their trap, you know, because I think the reality is that if the red team and the blue team took time out just for a little bit and focused on the predator class, you know, the real problem, the group that's actually causing all of this. If we sorted that problem out, then the differences that we have between, when I get the feeling that once we got back to like, all right, now red team and blue team ready to go fight again, now that I think there'd just be no appetite for it. It'd be like, you do your thing and you live over there and I do. The problem I have with it is it feels like it's being forced on me. It'd be one thing if it was like, oh, you believe there's 117 genders? Okay. But it's like that person teaches your kid
Right.
at school. So now all of a sudden it is your problem. It's like it's not your fault, but it's your problem to deal with now. And you're like, I don't want anything to do with this woke stuff and I'm not interested in it. And you morons go do whatever you need to do. And
yeah, like I don't want to cause fights. I don't want to hate people. I don't want to like get into altercations, or it's all disgusting and uncomfortable to even have to deal with it. Yeah.
Yeah. But then now in some ways they're making it your problem, because they're mandating certain languages and they're teaching they love school to get into and teach school and film it and put it on libs of TikTok and all this stuff and talk about how there's like this indoctrination program and pronouns and DEI and all this stuff. And you start going, I didn't love it. I never loved it. It was always dumb to me, but it was you guys were doing your dumb thing over there and it was none of my business and I didn't really care. I still thought it was stupid, but it's, you know, I don't have any, I'm not going to like go
and
out
being
of my way.
weird was okay. You know, sorry, go ahead.
Being weird used to be okay. It used to be that the worst that would happen is, you know, you would, people would like goof on you for like playing Dungeons and Dragons or something. It's like,
right
now, like bring back those days, you know, that was great. Now it's like, now you guys have taken that insanity and you're trying to make it mainstream. And there's a lot of people that are like, this is incompatible with the way I see the world. And now you've made it my problem. And so here I was trying to live my life and not get involved in any of this stuff. And now I have to have the conversation with my 12-year-old about why people are zimzuring and all this stuff. And, you know, I mean, I'm going to get called into the principal's office when my kid says, you know, my daddy said that they're all mentally ill. You know what I mean? Like, then I'm going to get the call.
And then your kid's going to get it too. Like, you know, you see a lot of stuff out there where like the kid gets personally hurt because these teachers are I mean, I don't even know how to put it into words. It's like, you know, you raise a child to think, you know, not think a certain way, but to value certain things and understand the world a certain way. And then this teacher comes in and oftentimes makes the kid feel terrible about, you know, what he has established in his head or her head. You know, it's so crazy, man.
Don't misgender them.
It's and it's with everything. Like I saw some video of some kid asking Santa Claus for a squirt gun or a Nerf gun, and Santa's like, "Oh, no guns, nope, no guns." And the kid cries, and the parents are like, "Are you fucking kidding me?" Like, I don't even want to. Like, I'm fine standing up for my kid, but I don't want to have to even put him in that situation where it's like, "Yeah, sorry, son, we're learning slowly as you get older into your, you know, adolescent age that the world is completely fucked and hates us." Like, it's just like not. It's so disheartening sometimes, you know.
I know. And I want to not have to, you know, there's all these like impediments that we didn't have to deal with when we were kids. When we were kids, it wasn't like there wasn't social media and there wasn't your cell phone and you know, you didn't have to text everybody to tell everyone where you were going. You just rode around your neighborhood on your bikes. And if you saw all the bikes piled in front of one guy's house, that's where everyone was over there watching TV or playing video games or doing something. And you would go over there and that was a much
smaller spectrum of ways to judge others, judge the world, and judge yourself, you know, especially the lack of social media and all that. Yeah.
And if you said something stupid on social media, there's no repercussions. If you say something stupid around all your friends, they'll beat you up or they'll give you a hard time or they'll call you names or they'll make it, you know, there's a way of like sorting this whole thing out. Your insane ideas get sort of run through the filter of all your friends going, dude, that's dumb. Don't ever say that again. And you're like, okay. So there's a checks and balance system that we had when we were growing up that that feels like it's missing now. And so I'm boy, I'll tell you, it's not even necessarily like a 2024 prediction or feeling or anything. It's just the next generation. I worry about like what they're losing, the stuff that we had, the connections that we had to each other. Everything's so different now. I know I sound like an old guy, like stay off my lawn. I feel like, but it's like minor things that mean nothing, like the joy of putting on a cassette or an album or even a CD, whatever, starting at the first song and listening all the way through to the end of the album, right? And now everything is like one song at a time, piecemealed to you. You know what I mean? Like you can buy just a song and it doesn't have the context of the album in it. You know what I mean? And so it's like all of these things, I notice that they've changed. And I guess they're always changing, right? It changed for our generation from the generation before. And I guess it's just the way of the world. But I do feel like, oh, you guys are going to miss out on some things. You're going to miss out on some cool shit that you went and got yourself in a huge technological hurry and you missed, I saw the picture, you might've seen it too. It was like some concert for like New Year's Eve. And it was a picture from the audience taken towards the stage. And it's just, all you can see is everybody's got their cell phone up.
Right.
Taking the same picture at the same time. So it's like a picture of like 1 million people holding cell phones up. And you're like, is this what we've become, man? It feels very...
It does go from generation to generation, right? Like you said, but at the same time, if I ask my father how his father felt about the world around, we're living at a time right now where we're going through some sort of fourth industrial revolution, whether we like to phrase it that way or not. So leading up to this, it probably did feel kind of a little bit similar for the most part from generation to generation. And we luckily have one foot in that older world. And, this has probably happened so many times on so many different scales throughout history. But this is definitely one of those times for sure. It's undeniable. And how, like you said, how long is it going to take? Where's the crest? We don't really know. But every moment kind of feels like the next final moment in a way, it's coming anytime now. The Epstein list now, right? There's new information about and we got half the people out there saying, well, whatever comes out is going to obviously be fake. And then the other half going, we got to sort through it and see what we can get. And man, it's just there's so much convoluted nonsense. Oh, I don't know.
It is frustrating to live in this world. I tried to the best I can to laugh at the absurdity of it all, because it's pretty funny too. There's some crazy things going on. I mean, we do you ever think that we would have a vice president of the United States? I mean, they were always sort of disparaged, kind of looked down upon, but Kamala Harris is describing time and space and electric yellow school buses in these press conferences
to adults
on 3 different occasions. One, she got off on a tangent and started talking about time, and you listen to it and you just go, I feel like I'm on drugs. I feel like I'm on acid, and someone is like, let's have a good time with this guy. Let's introduce it's like Idiocracy. President Mountain Dew Camacho is about to come out, and start shooting his gun up into the ceiling of Congress. And the worst part about this whole thing is that if that happened tomorrow, I wouldn't be as surprised as I would like to be.
No, you got Kid Rock kind of or The Rock. Both have thought about running, and it's like, this is so close to President Camacho. We're gonna be drinking Brondo, what plants crave, like tomorrow. It's happening.
If somebody said, I am from the future, And they said in 10 years, The Rock is going to be the president of the United States. I wouldn't be that surprised.
Like, all right, thank you for that tip. I'll put my money on that.
Like, sure, yeah, because I mean, I can already look back at, like, if somebody told me in 2020 when I was leaving in Acapulco that in 3 weeks the world would be turned upside down because of a virus, and that Berwick and I would have to rewrite the whole second half of the book to include COVID, and that the people would be standing on dots 6 feet apart, 6 feet from the person in front, and going one direction down the lines of aisles of a grocery store because there's duct tape that tells them to do that. You would have fitted me for a straight jacket and immediately, and you would have been right to.
Yeah.
Exactly, so like that's a 4-year window right there. So when I look at like 2024, what is it? What Agenda 2030? There's another good benchmark. Right. Well, what's the world going to look like at 2030? Well, first of all, unfortunately, Gavin Newsom will have been the president of the United States for the last 2 years.
Oh God!
And so I think about something like that, and I go, "Gonna be," and if you don't have like a little bit of a sense of humor, you're gonna miss the beauty of President Camacho.
Right. Yeah. I mean,
you're gonna miss that. There's going to be so much. There's going to be so much, like, as a writer. For me, it's like an embarrassment of riches what's going on right now. I almost don't know where to start. There's so much to talk about. There's so much insanity. People might go an entire decade without anything good to really talk about in their country. And look at what we've done in just the last 3 years. It's amazing.
That reminds me, I wanted to bring something up that you had said on the show, and it really, like, it gave me chills, honestly, because I think you and I had our same kind of awakening was 9/11. And like, it took me few years after 9/11 to really question anything. I mean, I didn't really trust the government at the time anyway, as like a 16-year-old, but still it took a few years till I was a little bit more mature and I had a little bit more of an eye for the world. And then it was like, oh my God. But then, how many of my friends didn't figure it out for 10 more years or 5 more years at least, and started to come around. And at this point in the game, we look back at 9/11 and it's like, it's not to say it's accepted by the majority, but my God, it's at least a meme to the majority. Like, it's not some conspiracy to yell at anybody about, like, you bring up COVID, you're going to get yelled at by someone who believes in it and all that. Same thing back then with 9/11. My teacher would cry and, no one can say anything, Yeah, that has gone away for the most part, because everyone's like, I know there's a lot that looks really weird about it. I can't deny that. Eventually, it kind of gave me hope when you said this. It's like, it's going to be kind of like a mirror image here. Like, the more time passes, the more people are going to catch on and start seeing it. It's kind of an inevitability. Whether that part's intentional, part of the collapse, my God, I don't know.
Well, think about it like this. Since we brought up 9/11 and since we talked about the radio show, tomorrow I've got Richard Gage on the show.
That's going to be epic.
Richard Gage and I he and I are connected to one another in just such a funny way. I'll tell you the story. And the reason why I bring this up is because Richard Gage is now known as one of the industry leaders in 9/11 truth from an engineering standpoint. He started Architects and Engineers for 9/11 Truth. He wound up leaving that and doing his own thing. Richard Gage didn't know that 9/11 was an inside job for 6 years until after it. 2007 is when he woke up to this. And he was an engineer who should have known better, but couldn't see it. So if he can do it, and he's a guy that spent 30 years as an architect and engineer in the Bay Area and had a lot to lose, and he couldn't deny it anymore. Right. If it took him a couple of years after the event for the light bulb to go on, then we should just expect that as well with this COVID era for people, that there may be some person 6 years from now that the light bulb goes off and they go, oh my God. And they wind up being able to explain it to people better than anybody else could.
Right.
And,
I'm always, yeah, that's how it goes. Yeah.
And because they came at it from a different angle. I have to tell you the Richard Gage,
Yeah, please.
my connections with him are wild because, I get invited to a wedding in Washington, in the state of Washington. I don't know anybody at the wedding except the bride and groom, and I go by myself because my wife can't make it. So I fly to Spokane, stay there, go to this wedding. I get seated at the wedding next to Richard Gage, and I go, "You're in my book," and he's like, "What?" I said, You're in my book that I wrote a couple years ago. And he was like, how so? I said, there's a chapter called Architects and Engineers for 9/11 Truth. That's the name of the organization.
What a great opening.
And he's like, what? Poor guy, man. He couldn't get away from me because we were seated next to each other at this wedding.
That's hilarious.
And I asked him for 2 hours, man. And I asked him every question, and I asked him everything I could get. What are the chances you get seated at a wedding next to a guy you wrote an entire chapter about?
That's so awesome, dude.
And so I start talking to him I said, you need to speak at an Acapulco. And he's like, yeah, for sure. I said, I'll talk to Berwick. And so I emailed him. I'm like, have you ever considered having Richard Gage speak? He's like, oh, that's a really good idea. No, I haven't even thought about it, but that's a really good idea. We should do it. Do you know him? I'm like, yeah, I just saw him at a wedding. So then a couple of months later, there we are in Mexico at an Acapulco. He's speaking, I'm speaking. He's speaking in front of 3,000 people. They give him a standing ovation. You know what I mean?
That's awesome.
I was like, this is all kind of happening because we're just going with the flow. And then this year I guess technically last year, 2023, September 11th, I see him again, New York City, this time for an event that we're speaking at about 9/11. And I had the opportunity during that weekend to go down to Ground Zero on Friday night, like 1:00. Well, I had dinner down there with Tony Arterburn from Wise Wolf, Gold and Silver, and Billy Ray Valentine, who does America Unplugged and Infinite Fringe. And Billy Ray and Tony were putting on this event in New York, this 9/11 event. And so we went down to Wall Street and had dinner that Friday night. Billy Ray is from the Bronx. And so he said, do you want me to give you a tour of the area? And we're like, yes, please.
Hell yeah.
So we walked around Lower Manhattan with Billy Ray Valentine till 1:30 in the morning. He would say, planes came in from this direction here. This is the way this building 1 was here. Building 2 was here. Building 7's back there. When you see it come down, you're seeing it from this angle. So we're walking around. I mean, we look like we're casing the joint. You know what I mean? We're walking around, taking pictures and everything. But that was a real treat for me to be down there with those guys and to see Richard Gage's promotion. So again, I'm going to talk to Richard tomorrow.
That's awesome.
And he just always reminds me that you don't have to be the first person to figure it out. There's no race, and people come to this information when they come to it. And with regard to 9/11 and whether it's COVID or the next thing,
yeah,
you'll wake up to it when you wake up to it.
It's kind of like seeing that picture in a picture where you got to stare at it for a while and finally, it's a schooner.
And then once you see it, you can always see it.
Absolutely. You
but
see the
somebody
pattern.
can be standing right next to you looking at it and they go, I don't see it. And that it's funny because I'm going to start, I've been working on another book.
I was going to ask you. Nice.
Yeah, but now it's really kind of tough with the new TNT schedule. But the new book, I already know it's starting with a quote from Leonardo da Vinci. That says there are 3 types of people: those who see when shown, those who do not see. And sometimes you just have to be shown.
Absolutely.
And that's cool.
Hey,
That's totally cool.
Yeah.
You know, it's not a contest. There's nobody like I was here first. I'm a better truther than you. Or there's nobody's keeping score. There's no grades.
Right.
Just when you find this information, you know, do the best you can to try to make sure it's high quality and get as much information as you can from all, from as many different sources as you can, and and have a broad media diet, not mainstream media, but alternative media, and listen to a bunch of different people, and always give yourself the flexibility to change your mind if you're presented with better information that contradicts what you believed before. I mean, there's nothing worse than being like married to some stupid idea that you thought you were right about in your early 30s, and then you got a little bit older and you said, oh, I couldn't see it. I couldn't see the scam.
Yeah, be your own debunker. Be your own debunker, like 24/7. At least, especially, and particularly, we're talking to people that actively like to do this kind of research. You gotta be your own debunker, because something I came on to talk on your show about recently was Lawrence Gardner's work and Nicholas DeVere, and how they're talking about all these ancient bloodlines and everything. Right. Now, a lot of that information that I said on your show, I would still, stake a claim on, and I'm with it, and I'm following threads, but new information is always valid, and you always have to not second guess, but really accept that you don't have the whole story ever, really. At this stage in the game, we don't have it. And I recently just found out that Lawrence Gardner, after writing all those books, was invited by the Windsors into their antiquaries, legacy group of writers and things like that. He's adorned this way, that way, and every which way you can be adorned by the royals. And so I'm now looking at it from a couple different angles, and I'm getting a couple people involved that are familiar with Bach Saga, and we're going, okay, if this was happening in Sweden and Finland and this area at this exact time, and Gardner's writing about this going on in England, what's happening here? Is there a dialectic? Is there some sort of red herring that's being sold? So this is kind of what you have to do.
You've got to. You've got to. I'm looking for this quote in my Octopus book. I'm not going to be able to find it.
Filled with excellent quotes,
here
by
it
the
is.
way.
Here it is. I've got it.
Nice.
Because you mentioned a piece of the puzzle. This is from Stephen Bassett, executive director of Paradigm Research Group. They're like UFO guys. He's a UFO guy. But anyway, I thought this was appropriate. He said, imagine if the truth was a huge jigsaw puzzle, a big box with 20,000 pieces, and it is the truth, the absolute truth. It is a picture of the world as it really is. You come into the world, you get an education, you're handed this box, and the idea is to put all the pieces together. And if you put the pieces together on this huge table, it will be the truth about the world that you live in. So you set about to do that. All good, a wonderful thing, except there is a problem. It turns out that the government that you are living under has made a decision to interfere with this truth process. It's a political decision being made for political reasons to serve the state, almost never the citizens. So the government has taken a whole bunch of those pieces out of your box and has thrown them away. They're missing. Well, that's a problem, but it gets worse. They've grabbed a bunch of pieces from another box, another puzzle, and have thrown them into your box, to your puzzle. And now you have to put this thing together with an idea that what you are going to find is the truth. That is an almost impossible situation, and it is extremely effective to serve the state.
That is brilliant. And I think you said that the time before the last time I came on your show. That quote is powerful.
It's my favorite quote in the book because Because he's right. Of course, we make this assumption that we're working with all the pieces.
Yeah, man. And people come, they stake their flags in certain places. They die on certain hills.
Yeah,
I run
yeah.
into that very, like when it comes to, it doesn't matter if you're talking politics, economics, or you're talking ancient history, people like that will be there to like just jump to grand conclusions one way or the other. And it's a really delicate business to sift through everything. And again, we're still missing things. So you have to admit to yourself, you're probably not going to get to the end of this. You're going to get close, and someone else has to come in and see it from another angle. And we got to just continue that.
And since we were just talking about 9/11, I even had to do, I have to mention this because in trying to understand that event from every angle that you can, you know what I mean? And there's so many different aspects to it. It's hard to, you know, it's impossible to know it all, but it's just, you just have to kind of know where to prioritize. I even found myself getting interested in watching the videos of the guys that were the remote viewers that remote viewed the event and watch what they were doing and how they were describing this event that they didn't know was 9/11. I mean, when they were remote viewing it, they're given coordinates, but they're, and I know that people can kind of discount that stuff and say, oh, it's Farsight Institute or it's SRI, and that's like CIA connected. 100% for sure. Yes. Right. Agreed. But please explain to me how Ingo Swann knew that there was a ring around Jupiter. I don't know. So there's this side to it as well. It's like, I'll look at the remote viewers looking at 9/11 too, because, you know, because like I feel like I'm going to look at it, all the evidence, right? Even if it's a little unusual like that. And what if they see something that I don't see? I'll tell you what, I can give you sort of the answer to the test on that one. They drew. Have you ever watched them do remote viewing sessions?
Oh yeah, it's like, yeah, and I'm not sure if the 9/11 thing was the Farsight Institute, but I've seen a lot of their videos and stuff like that. Yeah, I know.
Yeah, where they're drawing on a dry erase board and everything. This dude is drawing. He's drawing. It's Dick Allgaier, who's the guy who's remote viewing it, and he's drawing this person's face who's in charge of this mission that's going on in an underground bunker for 9/11. And you're watching him drawing it, and you're looking at it and you're going, he's drawing Donald Rumsfeld. He's drawing Donald Rumsfeld. And he gets done and he looks at it and he goes, huh. He just kind of looks at it. He's like, I know, like, you could almost tell, like,
oh shit, I
know who I just drew Donald Rumsfeld. It was the glasses and the I don't know how, I'm not an artist, but with dry erase, which is, you
can't do much, right?
Something, and I'm looking at it going, that's Donald Rumsfeld. And I'm watching him, and I'm watching when he recognizes that he just drew Donald Rumsfeld, because he just goes, huh. and so it's like, is that going to hold up in court? Me dragging my remote viewing evidence? Fuck, of course not.
Not yet, anyway.
You'd get laughed out. But it's like,
and didn't they draw that? I think we might be talking about the same thing. Is like Dick Iger or whatever his name is. He's like a very famous remote viewer, and I think he was
a news anchor in Hawaii.
Right. Yeah,
and who got into remote viewing, and he's and he was with the Farsight Institute with Daz Smith in London, and they would do these things, but then they kind of broke off and did their own stuff. And whoever it was, I think it was back when those guys were at Farsight, where they were doing the whole thing, and Courtney Brown said, I told these guys for 10 years straight, we're never doing 9/11.
Why?
I'm just never going to have
Courtney.
And he said, and as he got, like, 15 years into this ban on 9/11, he had this epiphany, they'd never see it coming.
That's true. And it's probably been enough time at that point. Do it. Yeah.
And I have no reason to and so all of a sudden he slipped him in the coordinates, and it was 9/11, and did 7 different scenes and got crazy shit. He
Yeah,
got guys
one of them was
rigging pillars.
okay.
A squadron of 8 guys that were in a group that were moving quick and were rigging pillars with plastic explosives.
There was another one that was like someone using a remote control for like an aircraft and feeling really horrible about it or something
There was
like
a
that.
pilot that they were drawing like a pilot who was like had his hands up like the controllers are there, but like I can't control them.
Ooh, yeah, that's nuts. Yeah, and Courtney Brown's an interesting character for sure because have you ever heard about how they there was some remote viewing prediction that they had made about the Hale-Bopp comet, and after Courtney's claims went kind of viral in the non-internet world at that time, but you know, viral in the alternative community back then, Heaven's Gate started getting bigger and more put together, and they started forming their belief structure right around the same exact time. So I think Courtney was even questioned to some degree at some point about him popularizing this idea about a mothership being behind the Hale-Bopp comet, and then these fuckers cut their dicks off and kill themselves to go there. You know, like
I've asked Courtney Brown to come on the show before.
Really?
He was nice. He declined, but he was nice about it.
He's
But
interesting.
I want to know. I want to talk to the remote viewing guys. I don't, explain to me how it all works.
Dude, you could probably get some real interest. Like with your pull, you could probably get the guy that thinks he's Edward Casey reincarnated.
Oh,
Fuck, what's his
David
name?
Wilcock.
David Wilcock, man. I don't know if I could ever interview that guy. I don't think you could, because we'd have to sit there and pretend we believe everything he's saying, and that'd be rough.
I know these guys in Dallas that have a podcast called Hidden in Plain Sight, and they are responsible for breaking up David Wilcock's marriage.
Holy crap.
They fucked with him so bad on the live streams about him yelling at his wife for not doing the lighting correctly that they're like, we think we broke up his marriage. We're pretty sure.
Awesome.
And they'll take his videos and then play them and talk over them. The two guys, it is so funny. One of the guys is Alex Stein's producer over at Blaze. And these two guys they're just like two stoners.
Yeah.
And
that's awesome that
they
they
have
feel
this
that
really
way
funny
too.
Podcast. But they have broken David Wilcock. They have claimed responsibility for ending his marriage and putting him getting him into a mental state where he's like talking to the squirrels.
I think I need to talk to these gentlemen.
These guys
they sound like
best,
heroes.
Their show is so goddamn funny.
It's good to hear that.
I said, I'm a bit of a retarded talent scout. And I feel like I've found a diamond in the rough with you guys.
Fuck yeah.
I had them on Macroaggressions. They were fucking hysterical. One of the guys doesn't even remember doing the interview. He was so blotted out. He had to go to rehab.
I'm going to have to go back and check that out.
For like benzos or something.
It's good. It's good to like hear that more people in the alternative community feel that way towards someone like Will Cox, because I get in these I'm on a lonely island somewhere thinking I'm the only one that feels this way, because I see so much acceptance of new age / UAP UFO, like the combination that's happening around those kind of groups of people. I see a lot of just blind faith in there. So it's good to hear that a lot more people than I think feel that way.
But I think people, these is, at least as far as these guys are concerned, there's no hatred. They don't hate him. They're just trolls. They're just fucking
that's fair
because
too.
He deserves to be fucked with. You know what I mean? Like a guy
you can't say you're the reincarnation of Edward. I think I'm the reincarnation. You should probably give me money. You can't say that around people like trolls.
You can't do that without expecting to be put in the proverbial stuffed in the locker. You know what I mean?
That's why.
That's all it is. These guys aren't actually like trying.
Oh, they sound awesome though.
But then there's the Corey Goods of the world who have to go out on the that wind up in depositions and have to admit that they made up the whole thing. And it's like, Yeah, we know.
Thank you.
We know you made up the whole thing.
But now everyone that copied from you is really upset now.
They're pissed. But we
very
were
embarrassed.
never phrasing it as like a question. We were
Right.
saying a statement. You're full of shit. Period. End of story. But there's like a little cottage industry there. To the
Yeah.
Stars Academy, these like made to, they get a disproportionate amount of viewership, or who they are all of a sudden. You know how hard it is to
Yeah.
grow an audience.
Yeah,
for
man.
a show. It's
with some hard-hitting topics and
grind.
great guests like you too. That's not what it. There's some help going on somewhere.
When your audience just automatically starts off big, or you have just an increase of exposure,
right.
Things go your way a little too easily. That to me is it's not hate or envy or anything like that. It's suspicion.
Right, absolutely.
Just
Oh yeah,
straight up.
plain old.
I'm not saying, oh, you're growing faster than me, so I hate you, and that's why I'm a hater. No. If you found a way to do it, please, by all means, go for it, as long as
Right.
you're being authentic. But if you're being propped up by the intelligence agencies, and when you're To the Stars Academy and you have 100 years of CIA experience on your board of directors, that's automatic disqualification. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So like there is the people in the alternative media, be they content creators or consumers of the content, have a responsibility to call bullshit when you see it.
Yeah.
Okay. When you see something as obvious as this CIA operation with Lou Elizondo and Jim Semivan and Tom DeLonge, and you just look at this and you go, are you fucking kidding me right now with this? Really?
Yeah, it's so unfortunate that most of the main community in there, sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off. The consumers, like you said, they're not looking at this alien topic from where you and I come from, where we're kind of like using the trivium and we're seeing this problem everywhere in society. So they don't see a problem with those CIA, the three letters afterwards. Sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off, Charlie.
Yeah, well, it's like that's your responsibility as a consumer of this information. Is you need to make sure that the people that you're listening to aren't completely manufactured intelligence assets.
Yeah,
like these guys, like Jim Semivan on the board of To the Stars Academy, sits in a position that is like the board of directors of the CIA, and he's been there for 25 years.
right.
The fact that anybody, so whether it's To the Stars Academy or you've just got yourself a new computer for Christmas and it has pre-installed NewsGuard on it,
Right.
and you go, oh, NewsGuard, this is great, and then you find out all the people that sit on the board of directors of NewsGuard are all guys that are just like this, like CIA assets, and you're going to have to take some responsibility for making sure that you're not listening to people that are not even trying to hide the fact that they're coming out of intelligence. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like
Trying to turn the corner and get
part
people
of
to
Lou Elizondo's origin story is that he's like a rogue CIA agent.
Yeah, I'm the bad boy.
CIA wants to silence me. Oh, shut up.
Dude, thank you for that. Yeah, dude.
So preposterous and dumb.
Yeah, man.
But so we collectively have to all kind of raise our awareness and raise our standards and say, no, sorry, you guys are going to have to do better than this, than the CIA guys, to give us information about alien disclosures. That's automatically out. Next,
Right.
and then start working our way through this, because there's a lot of information that I want to know about this stuff. I'm really fascinated about what the hell is going on in our skies,
Yeah,
and,
man.
and is this interdimensional? I'm open for this. I'm ready for the conversation. You know what I mean?
But yeah, they're hiding something. Something's being
They're hiding something. And of course, I'm super anti-government guy. I'm going to be hosting and emceeing in Acapulco this year. I mean, you
Hell
pretty
yeah.
much you have to be kind of anti-government to have that gig. But I recognize that the government would be in a position to know more than us. So I am actually willing to make an allowance and listen to what the government has to say. I'm not saying I'm going to believe it, but I would like to get them on the record talking about what is going on with this stuff. But it's really hard to take any of it seriously when you feel like you're not even starting from a position of any sort of trust at all, when the guys delivering you the message are all from the CIA.
Right. Well,
We
we've been
can't
bad for a long
start
time, and
there.
those are the
That is-
those are the old ways, and we're turning over a
Yeah.
new leaf. These are all Lou Elizondo's type words that, like,
Yeah.
well, and it sucks because it definitely worked. You know, there was a time where I think the UFO community was more aligned with what you'd call the conspiracy theory community. There was almost no difference. You know, you look back at the movie Signs, they're wearing tinfoil hats to block their brains from getting read by aliens. Like, that's kind of like the origin of that. So it's weird how separated it's actually become. You know, it's
well, what do you think the role? I wonder how you see this as the, because there's a lot of money in aliens now.
Oh yeah,
you know what
everywhere.
I mean? And it's like Hollywood loves this stuff. And so now the financial incentive is in there to talk about it, because now it's a time, for whatever reason, now you're allowed to talk about it and not get laughed out of the room.
Right.
So it's like, holy shit, our day has finally come. You know, all the UFO people, now's your time to shine. But now there's a lot of money floating around in there. And how does that impact stuff? Like I mean, everybody has to pay their bills, right? But where's that line?
Yeah, I don't know. I'm not really sure. Like, I don't often think about the financial part of it, other than the fact that people are absolutely going to take advantage of that. Like, you know, you have that guy, James Fox, and he's a good director. He makes well done, cool documentaries about aliens and stuff. But, you know, 10 years ago, we would not have seen him being taken seriously on the magnitude that we are now, or Stephen Greer or anything. So the financial incentive is there to make tons of money, but it almost does seem like a byproduct or a happy secondary outcome to the primary one, which is probably way above all those people making the money. You know, like, hey, do you want to get rich? Do you want to become we'll give you all the interviews you want to make your documentary. It's going to be awesome. We know all the inside info. We're the good guys. But meanwhile, it's really not about the money being made. It's about framing the situation in the way that they want it framed, basically. And I'm not disbelieving in aliens. I often say that the only aliens I don't believe in are the ones that the government's selling now, or the ancient aliens and all of that stuff that's already written into our mythology. But I'm still open-minded to it. And I know that something weird is, you know, consciousness in the universe is fucking weird, and we haven't figured that out. So it's like, if we don't know fully about those things, and we're presuming to know what they might be hiding behind closed doors, it's just too much, you know?
Yeah.
It's way too much.
Did I tell you I had about my DMT experience in Acapulco?
I feel like you might have, but let's remind the audience, because that was on your show, if anything.
Yeah. I had the first time I went down there in 2019, I got partnered up with this dude at a DMT ceremony. And the shaman just said, you and you are partners, and you go off over there. And I said, what's your name? And he said, Johnny Dollar. And I said, what do you do? And he said, I'm a crypto anarchist artist. And I go, what kind of art do you do? And he said, I'm a post-pop surrealist. I go, what the fuck does that mean? And he says, I got a painting of Mickey Mouse holding a gas canister with the Bitcoin logo on it, and he's just lit a central bank on fire. And I was like,
nice.
I think you and I will be friends, you know? So he was my DMT partner in 2019. We stay in touch, right? We had really crazy, like, the session that they did there was like kind they blow up your nose and everything. And
Oh,
it's like a
okay.
30, 40-minute session. It's kind of longer than the smokable kind.
Mm-hmm.
So 2020, I see him. That's the following year. I see him at an Acapulco again. And then this last year, 2023, back in February, I was there again, but I didn't know if I was going to see him. And I wound up, and I didn't see him actually. The first day I didn't see him anywhere. I wound up at the Ron Paul dinner. And after we got done at the Ron Paul dinner, I said, where's everyone going? They said, well, they're going to Max Egan's bar called the Crow House, which is right down the street in Acapulco.
That's cool. I didn't know
It's
he had his
little,
own bar.
little beach area. Yeah, he bought this bar, right?
I gotta talk to that guy.
I just interviewed him on Saturday.
That's
for
cool. I'll have to listen.
Macroaggressions. He's a cool ass guy.
Mm.
So I go and I'm leaving this place and I'm just following the music and I'm just wandering. I get closer and closer. I come around the corner. The very first person I see is Johnny Dollar standing right there. I go, what the fuck are you doing? He says, I live here. I go, at the bar? And he's like, well, yeah, I go like above it. And I was like, whoa, good to see you. And so we caught up and we hadn't talked in like a year. And he said, and we're connected by our DMT experience.
Mm.
And he said, hey, I know you've always wanted to do the smokable kind. I've got some. I've got a vape DMT vape thing. I was like, really? He's like, yes. And I said, yeah, I'm down. What do you propose? And he said, so the conference is Monday through Friday. He says, Friday night, 7:00, meet me right here at the bar. We'll watch the sun go down and then we'll stay on the beach with beach towels. And it'll get dark real fast. He says, and we'll just do it there on the beach. Nice. And I was like, okay, cool. So I have crazy week, but I've got that in my mind, right? So that Friday night comes and we went down to the beach and there was nobody around and if he was, since I had done it with him before, I felt very comfortable. And so he had done this particular smokable kind plenty of times before. So I allowed him to kind of lead me down this path. And so the first one, you kind of go easy. You're just going to do like 2 hits and everything. And you get this very distinct, very unusual feeling, very geometric shapes and everything. And we did, so we would do it and then chill out and talk for like 20 minutes and then do it again and then talk. And so the fifth and final session of the night, he said, okay, we've been building up to this the whole night, right? Just kind of like doing a little bit more. And I'm following his lead. He says, no, on this one, you're going to hit that thing as much as you can. And then I'm going to just take it out of your mouth. He says, I want you to get to the point where you can't even make your hands work.
Oh my God. You're brave, Charlie.
But I don't want you to sit. I don't want you to lay down. Instead, stay kind of like, on your butt, like I was kind of hunched over. And I want you to keep your eyes open. And I want you to tell me what you see. And I was like, okay. And so we did that. And I sat there, and because there was a full moon, I could see the waves and I could see, and as I was hitting that, I was just watching the waves and hitting it. And I watched those waves come in, and I knew when it hit me because all of a sudden I saw the waves just freeze. Everything just completely stopped. And the contrast of everything lit up in a very fine, light blue, neon laser-ish checkerboarded mesh grid that,
I know that
that just
grid.
overlaid everything. And I looked up and I could see the stars. I could see a billion stars, and it felt like they were moving out of the way. But I could always see this very faint, almost like if you had a pad of paper that's like just like a grid, you know, perfect squared grid. And I was looking around, and it was undeniable. I felt like like a CAD program where you've got the layering and you're at just like the grid layer, but it's not so overwhelming that I couldn't see anything else around it. It's just a very faint line. It went all the way through the sand and the beach, all the way through the water, as far back as I could see in the horizon, all the way up above me, through the star. It looked like it was behind the stars.
Was it kind of like translucent? There was like, it was almost like a netting or a webbing.
Exactly. Yes.
Yeah. Indra's web. I remember hearing about Indra's web, and I was like, that's it.
I got the thing is that because it was Johnny Dollar, and I have this very unusual but fantastic relationship with him. When I got done, I just looked over at him, and he had this big smile on his face. And he said, "Did you see it?" And I said, "The grid?" And he goes, "Yeah." I said, "Yeah, I saw it." I said, "How did you know?" He said, "I knew that you'd want to see it." And I was like, "Fuck yeah, I want to see it. Holy shit." And he's like, "Yeah, holy shit is right."
Yeah, that's
and
crazy.
we were trying to explain to each other, we were trying to talk about like, so what is this? Are we in some sort of simulation? Are we seeing like the outer parameters of this? Are we seeing the math behind it? Or are we seeing something we're not supposed to see? Are we in an enclosed system? I'm fine if, again, I don't have any energy one way or the other.
Right.
But let me know what I'm working with here. I'd like to just know how it all works. So it felt very much like a simulation.
Yeah, it's hard to
and I don't know even really how I feel about that. I don't know if that makes me feel better or worse about things. I haven't really decided yet. Maybe that'll be something that like I'll figure out as I go through this process. But like, it just that was how I felt about it. Like, I feel like I got to see the inner framework of the universe, and I wish I was paying attention in math class. You know?
Dude, that was the closest description explanation I've ever heard anyone give me to like my own freaking experience. Like the grid, it's not just me. I've heard other people talk about it too, but the way you put it into words was like verbatim how I've had to try to describe it over the years. I would add to it that it felt as if it was amazing how it didn't matter how many dimensions it had to deal with, or how many moving objects it had to deal with, or even me, my car, whatever was going on, it all somehow fit perfectly into that grid. And it almost doesn't even make sense to say.
I know. No,
and of course we run to the Matrix. Of course, it's like the closest thing you can think of, you know?
And you start to go, well, I mean, if I were writing a science fiction movie,
right,
I'd pull from that. You know what I mean? And then you'd see it in Hollywood, and someone would say, "Oh, there's predictive programming." It'd be like, well, no, it's actually just this shit happened.
That's the thing. Yeah, I always had that problem.
Did the Matrix, the
Wachowski sisters,
brothers, did they ever speak openly about DMT?
Nothing I could find, because you got me, man. Like, I went through every movie I had ever seen after psychedelics, and I was like, and keep in mind, I saw the grid on very, very, very heavy dose of psilocybin mushrooms, not DMT.
Oh.
But DMT and psilocybin are like one carbon atom apart from each other. Like that, they're the closest psychedelic. I never saw any grids on acid. I saw lots of snakes for some reason, but yeah, no grid. But I forgot where I was going with that. But yeah, I went through every movie I could imagine. Like, and I remember talking to a good friend of mine later on in life about not just movies, but also certain lyrics. And he's like, well, you know, anyone who's kind of at that level and allowed to produce the art that the world is given is pretty much initiated into the mysteries for the most part. Not even like a conspiracy statement here, just kind of like in general, they've probably all experienced psychedelics, meditation, you know, all these different, they're initiated into it. Same with musicians. You know, I used to read Tool lyrics going, how do they know this? It's like, well, look at the fucking 33 on his jersey all the time, you know? They know it. They're part of this. It's not really a secret, but it's a secret, which is really fucking creepy.
Yeah. I don't know what to do to top that DMT experience. You know what I mean? I don't know where I go after something like that.
There's not many places you're
and it took me so long to process what I had gone through, because there was another part of it that happened in like the second session, that was of me laying down on this just on a beach towel on the beach, and feeling this extremely bright light on the right side of my head, like someone had pulled like a dentist lamp right up next to my head. And then I felt this move all the way down my right side, like it was scanning my body, and then all the way back up and finished the scan of me.
Whoa.
And I didn't and I made the equivalent of like when you see like a robotic arm painting a car, that like in some auto warehouse someplace, and it's like automatically like moving around and painting the sides of this car. That's what it felt like. It felt like it didn't feel like a person or anything. It felt like a machine that was like scanning me.
I'm going to be pissed if we are in a very Matrix movie like simulation. That's going to be really disappointing. Because that experience that you're talking about sounds really like on the nose, you know, like not draped in metaphor and allegory like many psychedelic experiences are. That was very like, ooh.
And it was so weird because I was acutely aware of the fact that I guess you don't really actually have to have a bright light to make it feel like there's a bright light in your face, because I knew there wasn't anybody next to me with a light. Yeah. And yet I was positive that there was a bright light like right next to my head. And it was such a real feeling. And I was conflicting because I knew it couldn't possibly be what I thought it was. And you're you know, you're doing that the whole time. You're like wobbling, like you're hearing this noise and
like an oscillation. Yeah.
Fuck. And it is a humbling experience, man. You know, you come back from that and you just go, I submit to the universe. I don't even understand what the fuck is going on here,
Yeah.
I'm willing to listen, but like,
That's a good way to
I
have it.
remember in that DMT spirit molecule, there's this lady, she says, I felt like a caveman in a computer lab. Talking about the DMT experiences. She was like, I was looking at this and all of it, the whole universe looked so like advanced. And she's like, and I just couldn't comprehend any of it. I was like, yeah, that's kind of how I felt. I was seeing these patterns and things and I was trying to comprehend it. And I was just like just humbled, completely, like you are at the mercy of the universe. But I did not have any machine elves. I was a bit disappointed, I will tell you that. I think we're both psychonauts enough to know that if you start wishing for things going in, I don't know that that's necessarily the best way to do it. I think you're supposed to just allow yourself to let the thing kind of
I'm so glad you said that. I'm so glad you said that.
And I wanted a certain trip, and I didn't get it, and I didn't get it because
where are those elves?
because I think I might have wanted it instead. But I got the simulation trip, which is like, okay.
It's always going to blow your mind. It's like you wanted the elves because you thought that was going to blow your mind. It's like, well, no, you said to blow your mind. You already know about the
right.
elves.
You didn't spend. You just want a show. There's a lot of different shows we can give you.
I'm so glad you said that about like going into it hoping or trying to have something and it not going that way. And Alan Watts talked about that, not just with psychedelics, but with reality, how, it's like trying to grasp water. It does not work. It will only escape. And I find that there's a lesson in there for people talking about manifestation, because when you think about it, that's kind of the false approach that's sometimes advertised, but oftentimes used out there, is that people are just desperately seeking their desires and it's never coming true. So manifestation doesn't work. But maybe it's more like this grasping water thing or this going into the trip thing. Maybe you have to relax and accept it or something like that. I hear people sometimes say things like, well, you have to accept that you have $10,000 in the bank. It's like, this sounds like bullshit, They're
like, see, well, then it is.
There it is. Yeah, exactly. Oh, what a perfect.
No, it's kind of anchored in bullshit.
Yeah.
I get where you're coming from. Have a good attitude. Be open to it. Be positive. Be expecting it. The secret, all that stuff. Listen, I went out and bought a fucking island.
Oh yeah, that's right.
because I was in the search for an island and I found an island. And it was called Secret Island, and it was right in my price range. And I was like, oh my god, dude, this is like,
that's a dream. That's so awesome.
It's meant to be. Big dummy me. We finally sold it. So.
Yeah. When did you sell it?
After 16 years of owning it in Belize. This island that was, hey, listen, I had a great idea for it, but and
you got your midlife crisis purchase out of the way early. So
I know. I did it in my early 30s. Yeah. So, well, I don't know. I've got my Alex Jones sweatshirt on. It's all happening.
It is all happening.
It feels like it's all happening.
And going into 2024, I know that we did kind of talk mostly about things to kind of be worried about, but honestly, just like you said on that episode of your show, we need to be healthily prepared. And like you said, the water has receded and we're wandering around. Look at all the neat things that have been uncovered by the receding water line, like, ancient mysteries, using the metaphorically and literally, but that tide is coming back in, and it, like you said, who knows when it's going to happen, but to just be healthily prepared. You don't have to necessarily go build a bunker. It might help, but but just re-examine your relationship with the bank. I think that's I think that you need to understand that the banks are criminal enterprises and that they will take your money because it is legally their money. So like that's free information from and that should be a liability anytime, not just now. As soon as you find that information.
There you go. Don't trust the banks. Just and you don't have to even make a big deal about it. You don't have to go like act all crazy and tell all your friends to get their money out of the banks. Just quietly go do it yourself.
Right.
To the
Yeah.
extent that you
Lead by
can.
example.
Be proactive instead of reactive. Get honest about where things are. It's not the end
Yeah.
of the world. We're going to make it through it. But like,
Damn right.
in the relative calm now, why wouldn't you just get yourself some like silver coins,
Yeah.
silver bars? I mean, I know bullets. I know
Yeah.
people that are like, bullets never spoil. They never lose their value, so it's like, God, I started thinking like a prepper.
I know, and they marginalized that whole group for a long time, probably for very good reasons.
I
you
think
know?
I think I might have goofed on the preppers.
Oh, I probably did too. I know I have.
Sorry, you guys were right. You're just a little kooky.
Yeah, and that's the great
We
part
love
about
you.
this community is that like people are building their bunkers for a lot of different reasons, and you don't necessarily have to agree with them, and that's how you get this sense of genuine community that we don't have to be the same person. We're not that leftist mob that needs to be one of us. We're independent people that are agreeing upon like mutual needs and gnosis about the situation, and it's good to find everybody.
It feels so obvious, that there's some real problems, but again, you can mitigate that. You can get yourself to higher ground to the extent that you can prioritize your time.
Absolutely.
Like you can't. If somebody in your family wants to know about this stuff, obviously tell them what you can. But like for those people that don't want it, move on. You know what I mean? Don't. There's no time to like try to convert people.
Yeah, you're wasting
If someone
your
wants
own
to know,
time
let
now.
them know. If someone wants to argue,
yeah,
good luck to you, man.
It's funny. You probably gave me that same advice on our very first appearance together, like 3 years ago, man. Like, it's a constant reminder too. One thing I don't want to forget to ask you, because this is a personal interest of mine too, because my wife and I, we've been trying and hoping to get out of the little suburbia house that we're in right now, and we want land and we want this and we want that. And I know you have a lot of good insight on how the housing market goes, and we're trying to follow it here and there. But what are your, maybe not predictions, but what's your forecast? What's it looking like going into 2024?
So my background is I have been a real estate broker for 26 years in California and Nevada. And, every market is a little bit different, but when you're talking about interest rates where they are, they've gotten pretty high pretty fast, and 7% interest rate isn't the highest, I've seen higher, but it's really high when it used to just be 3%, 2 years ago. So when that happens really quick, what winds up in the consumer's mind and in the homeowner's mind is that they make a calculation of like, okay, yes, we need to get a bigger house because our family is growing. But if we move from this house into that bigger house, we're not just buying a bigger house, we're also now selling the house with the 3% interest rate and having to buy a more expensive house at a 7% interest rate. And that's a deal killer for a lot of people. So they'll take a look at that and they'll say, let's just renovate the house. Let's just deal with it. We're just going to stay because we've got a killer interest rate. So then you get a lot of people that just maybe want to participate in buying addition, selling a house, buying another, but they can't. They just make that calculation and it's like, nope, not doing it. So that creates problems. Every percentage point higher in interest rates you go, you lose a segment of buyers that just fall out. They're not qualified anymore. You know, as it goes to 7%, the debt to income ratio just moves just a little bit in the wrong direction. And now all of a sudden you're no longer qualified for a mortgage. Now they can monkey around with mortgages and they can give you some shitty rates and they can do all kinds of stuff. And that's usually a really bad sign when you start to see things like that. So I think that if I were heavily invested in residential real estate in the United States, I would be looking to sell, just because it's been so inflated for so long. And if you can get out now, boy, my instinct says that this is just an unsustainable pump in the market over the last 10 plus years. And having lived through this in Las Vegas, where it went up 43% in 2004, and I was selling houses and I sold 12 houses in one day, you know, and crazy shit like that. I saw unsustainable, and then I saw a catastrophe. So I've seen it before, you know, and I've been right in the middle of it, and it's hard to be honest about it when you're right in the middle of it. But if we're being honest about it, like, jobs are not great. Prospects in America is not great. Interest rates are not great. Housing has been overvalued for a long, long time.
Yeah.
Due for a correction. What does that look like? How bad is it? You know?
Yeah. So time to get out when you can.
But again, there's also human factors that go into this too. You know, it's not all just business. It's I have to live in this house. My kids have to go to that school. You know, and so there's a lot of that impacts this as well. So, and I always think about that when we talk about these cities that are, you know, run by lunatic Marxists, and it's like the poor people that are like stuck there, like hostages. Like, I would love to leave, but I can't because my kids are all in the school. And I can't get out.
I feel that way here in Massachusetts, big time. You know, I mean, we're a little bit of we're kind of covert, but no, it's pretty fucking liberal here, you know?
Yeah. And you're just like, fuck, what if I'm stuck here, you know?
Yeah. And we're looking for higher ground specifically. Because we are those paranoid types looking at the water.
Well, I'll tell you this: to end the real estate part of this,
sure,
there is some interesting opportunities, I will say, in the real estate industry, and that would be anytime you can get yourself productive farmland. You've got something.
Yeah,
you've got something that constantly grows. You want to look for land with productive farmland. You want water, and you want water rights. If you've got all three of those things, especially the water rights, then you're in pretty good shape. So, because those things are going to be extremely valuable, especially water. Yeah. Water is sort of like the 50-year frontier looking out, you know, as far as like what's going to be in demand.
Food what do you mean by water rights? Like, what is, like, when you
can own the water underneath the ground.
Oh, okay, yeah, and of course that's separate.
Yeah, and also you can own a lot of mineral rights too. So there's ways that you can, profit from this, and it's totally okay to profit from this, right? And I feel that way. I mean, if you are able to see what's going on in advance and make moves accordingly and put your money where your convictions are, why not get rewarded? I think that people that are involved and invested in land, you know, that has water rights and is in a region where it grows a lot of food and has, you know, access to fresh water. I mean,
they did it.
Please explain to
Yeah.
me how that is a bad investment.
Right. Yeah.
Depending on how you know, where you get, obviously there's a lot of factors, but you've got something that is in, there's a real opportunity for people out there that want to appeal to people like us that are like, where do I go when everything goes to shit?
Right. Yeah.
Because there is a market for that, because there's a lot of people thinking it and wondering, like, God damn, what am I going to do?
Yeah,
I
there's a
have
lot
to
of
shoot
us.
somebody.
There's a lot
know
of
what I
us
mean?
sitting around hoping that, wishing, like my wife and I talk about it often, that like if we had more overhead, if we could be the providers, I would love to facilitate something. I would love to get a bunch of good people together that I've met through this podcast. Like, let's get serious. Let's stop making. Let's take that meme about get together with your friends and buy a property and blah blah blah. Let's make that a real thing. A lot of us have been talking about it for a long time. Maybe someday it'll happen at some point,
You know who I'm going to be meeting at Anarchapulco this year is the president of Liberland.
What's that?
Liberland is a new country.
Okay.
Yes. It was started by these radical, like, anarchist lunatic guys that are Berwick's friends. And it's this disputed piece of land, like right off the Croatia, Slovenia, I don't know, one of these places. It's like right in between, it's sandwiched in between three countries. And it's this little island. And they've done some like legal wrangling, and they have like turned it into a country.
That's
and these
awesome.
guys, I met the finance. I went out on Berwick's boat with him. I met the finance minister of Liberland, and Berwick's flying the Liberland flag from his boat. And I'm like, I just want a passport. I just want a second passport. That's all.
That's so funny. Yeah, me
Dual
too.
citizenship.
I'm like currently looking up their flag right now.
It's
So
like a
I'm,
yellow
yeah,
and light blue flag, and
it's
it's
got the crest with an eagle and the sun and the
And-
water.
and they're always I met a bunch of the guys this last one, and
Yeah.
and now the president is coming.
That's
The
so cool.
president of Liberland. We have royalty. I get to introduce royalty to the stage.
That's so cool.
I want a passport so bad.
I want to hear all about Lieberland. Not here, just like I want to like find out about that place. I mean, shit, it's kind of far away, but it sounds like a good idea,
Yep.
And hopefully it stays the way it's intending to be for a lot of time,
Yeah,
That's crazy.
I think they're running it as some form of like experiment. But
Yeah.
the guys are super smart too. Like,
Is
I
it
mean,
like
the
is it like
finance minister
voluntary?
guy I was talking to was like a legit smart dude,
Good.
crypto banker, uh, hedge fund manager type guy. I was
Wow.
really impressed. I was like, damn, like he was laying it all out to me on Berwick's boat. I was like, just because I had a million questions. Like, how are you running a country? Like, explain this to me.
Yeah, is it like voluntarism that I've heard about?
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah,
That's
yeah.
awesome.
It's
Which
like
I
there's
know
no
the
salaries or anything. They're not. There's no that you're not even allowed on the land. So it's like it exists like it's a physical place, but it exists like almost entirely on paper because of this disputed territory bullshit. Like you can't
That's
even
so
get on the
wild.
you can't even get on the land. They'll arrest you.
What? Even the residents of
Yeah,
that,
There
even
there
this
are no
minister?
residents. Yep,
Oh,
they'll arrest.
this is so crazy.
Yeah.
There needs to be a documentary about Lieberland.
There is, one of
Good.
the guys at the TNT studio, one of the producers at TNT was like, look up this video. It's called like 27 minutes of something of 27 minutes and before I got arrested on Lieberland.
Oh my
And it
God,
was
that's
like this
awesome.
guy, some YouTube guy who I guess is a big deal, was like, you know what? I'm going to see if I can get on Lieberland. And sure enough, he got arrested within like 30 minutes. So,
Wow.
and filmed the whole thing too.
Yeah, yeah,
So,
that's crazy.
so
Well,
I'll tell you how it goes after I see them in oh wow, coming up on 5 weeks.
wow, is it that close? Is that the next Anarchapulco, or
That's the next in Acapulco.
that's gonna be a big one? And yeah, you guys got a lot of good speakers this year, right?
Yeah, we've got Max Egan
Yeah.
is going to be one of them. Larkin Rose, Dave. I got David Icke virtually. I
Okay.
settled with virtually, so I thought I was going to be able to get him to get on the plane because
That would
I
have been
saw
wild.
him in 2019 at an Acapulco.
Hmm.
And this year, Jeff asked me, he's like, is there anyone that you really want? And I said, I really want David Icke. And so he's like, well, go ask him. So,
That's
so
cool,
we
man.
split the difference.
Yeah,
So
yeah,
we
might
got
as
it
well.
virtually. Then we've got a bunch of the doctors and we've got a bunch of the crypto guys. There's like, the first day is like, fuck the government, anarchy people. And then the second day is like crypto. And the third day is health and wellness. And the fourth day is like preppers and homeschoolers. And the fifth day is like all of the naturopathic doctors and all the Del Bigtrees and all the movie producers and all those guys are there on that Friday. And then there's like a huge party that night. So that's basically like what it is. It's Monday through Friday of that. And so I'll be the ringleader this year.
That's awesome, man. Well,
Which
congratulations.
is fun for me.
Yeah.
It's a real treat for me because it's my favorite week of the year, and to be able to get to see it up close is a trip. So anyway, I hope if anyone is interested in getting the hell out of wherever cold ass place they are in February, you can go to anarchapulco.com, and take a look and see what you think. See if you want to get some tickets and fly down there and change your life and get some cool experiences under your belt instead of buying shit that you don't need.
It blows my mind that like HBO did like a documentary and everything, because it's like,
Yeah.
it's like almost like get them why do they want to know about it, like but it's like it's such a big thing,
6-part series on it.
Yeah, and it's like, no, this is supposed to be this is supposed to be all of us, like what's going on? But at the same time, it's like it's undeniable what a lot that goes on at that conference. It's like all those topics you mentioned are so crucial, and it's kind of like I mentioned the trivium earlier. We got to learn what's going on from all these different angles, and you mentioned some really perfect hot topics like homeschooling and all the doctors coming out in defense of all of us non-vaccinated and everything that happened over the past few years. Like, these are all such crucial points on the map that need to be covered, so I really commend you guys for doing this.
I'm happy to be involved. The team there is super nice. I met them all last year. I mean, obviously besides Jeff, I knew him.
Yeah.
But they've got great producers on it. So when it came time to like figure out who was going to be the host, I had already been talking to them. I never stopped talking to them after Acapulco, after this last February. I just kept talking to him. And then one time I just said to Jeff, who's going to host it this year? Because it was Ernest Hancock who hosted it last year, and he was great. Because Ernie, I don't know if you know him, but he's an old guy and he talks like this and and he will fucking talk for 12 hours straight.
Whoa.
And he's
that's
perfect
awesome.
for it. And he's super interesting too, but he's very intense and he's super loud and he's perfect for it. So I mentioned it to Jeff. I was like, I said, is Ernie going to do it again? He goes, no, we don't know who's going to do it. I said, oh, well, let me know if you need me to help out. He goes, oh, okay. Do you want to do it? I was like, sure, I'll do it. And he's like, okay, well then do it. Let's do it. That'd be great.
Awesome.
And I was like, okay.
Jeff,
Okay.
I've never talked to him, but Jeff, every time you've mentioned him, he just seems like he trusts you. He's just like, all right, cool, yeah, do it.
He is what you see is what you get.
Yeah.
You know? He did the most appropriate thing ever. The night our book got released, he spent the night in a jail cell in Mexico, in Cabo, for fighting with the police.
Nice.
And I know that because his wife filmed it and sent it to me.
Like, congratulations on the book.
Screaming at the police.
That's fucking awesome.
Wasted, and he's screaming at the police. He's 2 years sober now. I must
good
say.
for him. Good for him.
So, and he's Jeff has been nothing but good to me. So I like him a lot.
That's awesome, man. Well, Charlie.
So I hope to see some of you out there. If you actually do come to Anarchapulco and it's because of this episode, you absolutely positively must come find me and tell me that.
Hell yeah. Please do. Yeah.
You have to. I insist.
Yeah, go see Charlie and Jeff and everybody else. That would be, I wish I could, man. It's in New Mexico, right?
Acapulco, Mexico.
Legit Mexico, big Mexico. Okay.
Actual Mexico.
Oh,
in a place called Secret Garden, which is a botanical garden place.
Oh, that's beautiful.
Really trippy and super cool, and has natural swimming holes are all around it. It's a fucking trippy place, man.
Does Ventura still live down there around? Like, I know
he's in Cabo.
Okay. I'm in Cabo.
I'm in the Baja.
I don't know about any Arnocos and polcos. I don't listen to polka music. That was bad. I apologize, everyone. But listen, Charlie, it's been a great time. I love talking to you, man. I appreciate you very much.
On my radio show on the weekends.
Hell yeah, man.
We'll
and if my crazy schedule changes, I would love to join you on during the week sometime. Absolutely. Like we were talking about before, working 2 jobs has definitely turned things a little upside down. I'm going to try to get this episode out this week. So hopefully all your references to yesterday, and it won't be too far off. It'll be good. So Charlie, please tell the people who may be living under a rock and haven't heard from you, before, where can they find you to find out more?
Well, I have a brand new website. Macroaggressions.io is the place to go. And we did a little rebranding recently, changed the logo up. Nice. And that all just started. So new website, new stuff, new year.
Hell yeah, man. World order.
Yeah. So Macroaggressions, the podcast goes out twice a week, once as a monologue, once as an interview. And you can find me on Twitter at Macroaggression, where I argue with bots.
Hell yeah. Yeah. Twitter is for yelling and arguing. If anyone didn't already know that, I mean, come on. All right, Charlie. Awesome chat. Everybody, I hope you enjoyed this. And let's kick off this year with some positivity despite a lot of crazy shit going on. So one step at a time, everybody. So love you all. See you next time.
Human sacrifice, dogs and cats living together, that's hysteria. Enough, I get the point.
You have meddled with the primal forces of nature. And you will atone. What do we know? What do we know? If I know what we know, then I can tell you what we know, and if someone else knows, okay? I mean...